Well, a client asked me to swing by and clean up some of their drifts this morning in their driveway. And while I was trying to widen out the curve here, I sort of slid off the edge, and now I'm stuck. I can't even open the door to get out of the truck. And I blame this lack of judgment on how close I could get to the edge of the driveway on daylight savings. Because I am fucking tired this morning. So while I wait for John to come pull me out, how about a video about why daylight savings is some bullshit? Now, like why kids get summers off for school, it's not because of farming. The original reason for daylight savings is also not what most people think, which also usually has to do with farming for some reason. Now, the concept is as old as our country. Benjamin Franklin even suggested it for some economic reasons way back in the day. But it first really took hold as a popular concept during the First World War. And the Germans were the first to implement this in 1916, so you can blame them, but the US did follow suit a couple years later. And the rationale was if you got people's asses out of bed earlier in the day to make use of more daylight hours, you'd use less energy for lighting, heating oil and coal for electricity and all those kinds of things. Therefore, those resources could be put towards the war effort, which consumed a lot of energy. Now, federally, that law went away when the First World War was done. But surprise, a few years later, we went for round two and reinstituted the policy. Once the Second World War ended, the federal government left the decision whether to keep it or not keep it up to the individual states. Of course, now you've got some states keeping it and some states abandoning it, and it got real fucking complicated to keep everything on the same timetable. So in 1966, the Uniform Time Act was passed to make daylight savings, well, uniform. And the push and rationale actually came from not the Department of Agriculture, but the Department of Transportation. They said it saves energy, reduces traffic accidents, reduces congestion, saves time, saves lives. I'm not sure how much of that they made up, but I'm gonna go with all of it. Because in the nearly 6 decades we've all been subjected to this bullshit, we've gathered a ton of research showing that any minor benefit daylight savings may have, they're minor, is far outweighed by all the negative health effects on people. Like, how the Department of Transportation said that it reduces car accidents? In the weeks following daylight savings, fatal car accidents spike by 6%. So, like I said, pretty sure they just made that bullshit up. Like I said, I'm stuck in a fucking driveway. I blame daylight savings. Strokes go up by 8%, heart attack risk goes up by 24%, digestive and immune complications rise about by 3%, and depression and mental illness episodes rise by about 11%, which has increased substance abuse and suicide. Daylight savings is literally killing us. And as a result, 60% of the world's just gone to a permanent standard time. Not to mention, Hawaii and Arizona don't really observe it. Which again, in a global economy and a global market and an interconnected world, gives us the difficulty of coordinating things between places that are observing it and aren't. But there's hope, Lord Jesus. In a weird and incredibly rare moment last year, Marco Rubio did something that I don't fucking despise. And wasn't simply hellbent on destroying the country for partisan politics. He introduced the Sunshine Protection Act, which would make summer hours just permanent year-round hours. And it passed the Senate with resounding bipartisan support. Look, they can do something bipartisan once in a while that's not just upping the defense budget. Of course, in the House, the likes of Margarine Tater Cream trying to figure out how to make safe spaces for conservatives to bully women and children, they can't find the time to get their shit together to come to a consensus on making daylight savings time permanent, so it's still up in the air. So if you're sick and tired of trying to figure out how to change the clock on the goddamn oven again, write your congressman. Tell him to make daylight savings permanent. It's time. I'm saved!